Welcome to the Green Wasp Removal YouTube channel. In this episode, we continue training the Manchester University Wasp Survey Team on August 19th, 2023, as they remove a ground nest of Eastern Yellowjackets, or Vespula Maculifrons, that was located in the backyard of a residence that had a small child who played nearby, so the nest had to go. We'll take you through the entire removal process from start to finish and show you how we set up the vacuum extraction gear, how we make a species identification, capture the adult foragers and queen for Venom Immunotherapy, or VIT, then remove the brood comb so it can be relocated into captivity, where the pupating larvae can complete metamorphosis until they can also be collected for VIT. Thanks for riding along with us. We always appreciate your interest and support. If you enjoy our content, please do like, subscribe, share, and comment to let us know you're there. Now let's go back to the beginning of this job on August 19th, 2023.
So we have an active Maculifrons nest. We're going to remove this one today.
And we're going to take a nest of Vespula Maculifrons out of the ground. That's the Eastern Yellowjacket. These can be very aggressive, so if they're in your path of your lawnmower or of your children playing or your pets, they will attack, so they have to go. And today we're just going to take a species identification first. So I'm going to capture a specimen. We're going to gas it temporarily, that knocks it out, and we'll take some close-up imagery of that. Once we have a specimen ID confirmed, we will go ahead and begin vacuuming them out through vacuum extraction, and we'll collect them for VIT, which is Venom Immunotherapy. Now we're going to do a species ID. In this container, we have a specimen of what appears to be Vespula Maculifrons, but we're going to knock her out very briefly with a canned gas. And that will let us know whether or not this one is actually what we think it is. We give her just a little bit of gas, just enough to knock her down. Gives her a little nap and allows us to do the species ID. Here you see her starting to fall unconscious. So now we're going to take her out and do some close-up imagery. Now, on the back of every Yellowjacket, there's a very specific pattern. And that wide anchor pattern at the top of her abdomen is what we are trying to film here. So you see that? That identifies her as Vespula Maculifrons, or Eastern Yellowjacket. So you'll see she wakes up here in a moment, and once she wakes up, she will be contained with the rest of the collection. Next thing we're going to do is set up our vacuum extraction device, which has on the end of it the collection bottle. This is a live specimen collection bottle, so that they can be brought into the clear container, but they cannot go down the tube because the tube is covered with mesh. And the tube is perforated. It's just PVC, supported by a block of wood, and it extends all the way down through the hose, and it's taped on to keep it airtight. We'll add a hose spout to it momentarily, and then we'll staple it down with a wire staple so it doesn't move once it's set up. So what you have is a BVAC. This is technically a BVAC designed by Tony Andrick with allmybees.com. This BVAC usually would suck bees up right into the BVAC container itself. But when we do wasp collection, especially for Venom Immunotherapy, we want to take them alive and put them into this upper container here that's connected to the hose, because that container is then frozen in dry ice. So we don't want them in this large container because they're hard to get out and it's harder to freeze them that way. We want them in small containers that we can freeze. Katie from the Manchester University Wasp survey team is going to do our initial setup on this Maculifrons extraction today, deciding where we position the collection container. She'll be setting up the staple and the hose spout on the container, and we're going to watch her go through that process. Once she gets it set up, she'll turn on the BVAC at about 50% and start seeing them get collected. All right, let's do it. So our nest is right here in the hole that you see right there.
Since there's one friend in there, I'll turn on the vac.
Okay. So Katie's removing the cap and putting on the spout, which gives us a better angle. The metal staple she has will go right over the spout on the collection container and keep it set up well without moving as it goes into the ground. The reason we put it adjacent to the hole and not over the hole is that we actually capture them on their way in and out of the hole. We don't suck them out of the hole through vacuum pressure because the nest is far too down into the ground for that to work. So you actually capture them when they're in flight on their approach to the nest and as they come out. We're getting them on the way in. So far when they try to take flight on the way out, they're going in as well. Just make sure they can't crawl out to the right of it. If they walk out too far, I don't think the vacuum pressure will catch them. You might go a little closer, Katie. Some of them that take path this way are escaping. There you go, that's much better. And as you see here, the collection is already coming into the container. We keep the pressure relatively low so that we don't damage the specimens for VIT. It's very important with VIT collection that you keep the specimen whole and in good condition until it's instantly frozen in dry ice. This keeps the complex proteins in the venom from denaturing or degrading. So as you see here, they're becoming hesitant to come out, and they're also bringing up large chunks of dirt. They're actively digging a large cavity around their nest. And so you see this one here has got a big piece of dirt in its mandibles, and it's trying to manage that as it tries to climb out of the hole. Maculifrons will typically dig through a tree root cavity that already exists, or they'll dig up an animal burrow that already exists and they'll simply expand it. And that's where they'll keep their nest. So if you have a lot of trees in your property, a lot of mold or vole activity, gophers, what have you, you will see most likely more crown nests. What we're going to do now that we've identified the species and begun the vacuum collection, we're going to have Katie start stomping around the outside of the nest to stir them up, and they'll start coming out in droves, we hope. So whenever you're ready, Katie, give it a few stomps. Definitely seeing them, but they're smart enough not to fly into the holes. So we'll probe it with the scope cam pretty soon. They're definitely coming up now. Doing a stomp. She's listening for audible sounds of hollow earth, and typically wherever there's the most hollow sound is where we'll begin our dig. Sometimes you can tell, sometimes you can't. What do you think? Any idea?
No.
Okay, no problem. It can be challenging to hear anything in particular, especially if it's a little bit deep. But as she stomps on the ground, there's always more activity coming up out of the hole. And eventually the wasps are smart enough not to come up because they sense a threat, they know what's happening, and they know it's not safe to come out, so they'll begin to cluster at the opening but not come out so much. At that point, we probe them with a lighted scope cam, so that's what we're gonna do next, and that will stimulate more of them to come out again. Right here, Katie is using the scope cam. Take it back right to the opening of the hole for a second. Okay, good. Now let's just poke down there a little bit. So we use the scope cam for two reasons. One is to get footage inside the tunnel. The other is to simply stir them up because they'll come out and attack the light on the scope cam. So we're hoping to find that it works as a probe device. It just stirs them up and makes them react defensively and come out. So we've been vacuuming for give or take 15 minutes. And we're not seeing a lot of population yet coming out when we stomp or coming into the container. We do have a significant number in there, but just not a ton of them yet. We're seeing a lot of foragers who've already been out this morning foraging and coming back and getting sucked into the tube as they come back to land in the hole. So for now, we're just going to assume that most of them are out foraging. Okay, so now Katie is going to begin the dig process. We start with a shovel just to get the initial sod off the top of the nest area. And we're not sure which direction the nest is in. It could be where she's digging, it could be out here, it could be over here. The reason we start here is because it sounded a little bit more hollow when we stomped around in other areas, but that's just a guess. And we have to just start to dig until we feel a cavity begin to form underneath the dig area. And then we'll follow that cavity and see what we can find. All right, let's stop there for a sec. Let's do the same around the whole perimeter of the entry hole. So Katie digs a little bit, and then she tries to track the hole by looking for what will ultimately be a vertical hole that then goes horizontally, typically, or maybe at a 45-degree angle down into the nest. It's not necessarily always directly down straight into the nest, which is why we begin sort of a perimeter dig. And the reason we don't dig the hole immediately is because we want them to continue to orient toward that hole, so the foragers that are out of the nest now continue to come back into their hole and get sucked up by the container. So that's the plan. We dig around the hole and we use the hole as a lure to get them back into where we can contain them. And Katie, you can stop anytime there's a swarm and just let them get collected. Great. I still see them getting sucked up, so they're coming to it eventually. So as you see here, they get a little confused when you change the visual orientation of their nest. But they do eventually zero back in on the hole, and they continue to get sucked into the vacuum. But they definitely are curious, and they're looking around now to try to find their new orientation. So once we remove a good amount of the earth around the hole so we have some working space, we then move in with trowels
do a little more detail work. See if we can track the hole. Meanwhile, we're getting a very nice collection going in here. Can you see that screen?
Yeah.
So we're getting a fair number of them. We're doing okay. So a lot of the foragers are still out and about.
There we go.
Got it? Okay.
Yep, that's the cavity.
Okay, let's keep it there for a sec. We'll reorient back. All right, so Katie's found the tunnel. It was actually back behind the bottle. So now we're going to reorient the vacuum device, and we're going to see if we can stir them up from here. I've got activity that's coming out. You see the nest? Can you come look at the screen, Katie?
I can see it.
Okay, so there's our paper. We've gotten down to the cavity where the nest is. Now we're just going to stand by and see if we can stir up here and vacuum them up as they come out. I love Maculifrons paper. It's always so creamy and tan and brown. It's a beautiful colored nest. As you see, the pedicels, or the structures that hold the paper of the nest to the dirt cavity wall, you see a couple of those here, and they continue to make those all the way around the cavity. And what you find is that it's very, very stable. They can keep that thing completely secure inside a cavity space because of these connections they make with paper to the walls of the cavity. That looks great. All right, let's trowel out a little bit more. If you need to come around the other side, let me know. But they're still coming out and getting hit, so that's good. I like your technique of blocking part of it with the trowel while you do the other part. All right, here's another look into the deeper part of the nest where they're expanding out. You see the root activity here? That is part of their support system as well. They often put the root system right into their paper. Expose the tunnel in the main nest cavity. We're just going to back off a little bit and suck up some of the foragers as they return and attempt to exit. So here we're just standing by, letting the swarm be depleted by the automation of the vacuum. That keeps them from swarming us as we work and keeps us a little safer. So right now Katie is removing some of the dirt from around the perimeter of the nest, just so we can see a little bit better where it is. You want to see the entire nest, ideally. There we go. Let's get the back about here for a second. What I'm doing is letting them crawl up on my glove, and then we put them right in the bag. So looks like it's just going to come out. Let me grab a container real quick while you vac for the nest material. Sorry. In this container, we're going to put whatever comb pieces we find. We're going to vacuum off whatever adults are on these comb pieces. We're going to attempt to save the brood that you're going to see. Pupating brood can be saved, brought into adult wasp form after metamorphosis right in the lab. So we can do that with these.
As you can see, there's still plenty of larvae that have not capped off yet. There's also some pupating wasps that have woven their silk caps. Here you see the edge of the next layer of comb structure. Like an archaeological dig, which is very, very gentle with everything you do, and eventually you start to uncover what you're looking for. What would you estimate the depth is to the top of the nest from the surface?
10 inches?
How much?
10?
About 10 inches, okay. So this
the
nest
top?
is about 10 inches below the surface. You get a little bit better sense of the depth if we pull back here. So it's in a pretty typical depth for Maculifrons, which is anywhere from a couple inches down to a foot or more, 18 inches. So it's right in the zone of what is usually the case. To lift the nest out in one piece. Getting close to that point. The pupa is so new that the adult wasps that are out there are so new they're not really much of a threat right now. They're just running around.
Okay, there's the queen.
Got the queen? Great, hold on, let me grab it.
Got it.
Alright, so this is the queen. We have the queen here. And we're going to contain her because we don't want her to survive on her own because she could possibly rebuild. So we're going to make sure we contain her. Here we go. Got it. Good eyes. Here's what the nest looks like. Suck them off my hand while we do this. I just want to get this on film. Here's what some of the layers look like for now. We have 3 layers in my hand. There's a 4th that's already in the container down here, and then there's more in the bottom of the nest. Not a very, very large nest yet. And you see the workers inside who are maintaining the larvae underneath each layer. And these pedicels between each layer are what allow them to get in and out of that space. Here you go, Katie. Okay, let's check you for knees and ankles and stuff, and then we'll continue. So here's the bulk of the nest so far. Let me grab that comb that's still in there gently and put it right on the nest. All right, let's take a look and see if there's an allergy. like that in there. I love this paper. I wish it didn't crumble so much with Maculifrons. But Maculifrons is always so brittle. I'm gonna have you step up here with me for a sec, and we'll separate the layers of comb while you vacuum up what's on the comb.
Okay.
Do that from about here. Does that work for you? Yep. Okay. So let's get them right off the comb. Home collection, right?
I think so.
Okay, I'm gonna go show the client real quick.
All right.
I'll be right back. They may have been excavating that way. You know, they work on expanding all the time. So we'll just explore the space, see what we're into. They might be going deeper, they might be going further back. There's no root space down there. It's a little ahead. You get the shovel out, take a couple big chunks out of there. See if anybody shows up. I think that might be where they're trying to run, but there's nothing there but a cavity for root. I don't see any nest, I don't see any foraging. So here we have the vacuum set up just as a place for them to come back to. So we're waiting on foragers to see how many are still out and about in the environment, doing their usual foraging routine. And when they come back, they'll explore whatever hole they can find. Hopefully they'll end up right in the vacuum. So we're refilling the hole now. We put the dirt in the hole, and then the sod pieces we lay across the top of the hole to leave it as close to what it looked like when we started as we can, because we want the grass up on top. And in the meantime, the vacuum is hidden behind this sod here and underneath it, so that they'll come back and use that hole that we've created as their nest site. That'll help collect whatever's still out there. So she pulls aside the sod pieces, and these are the ones we leave on the top. The rest of the dirt goes in the hole. Go ahead and hit it with another layer of oils. In the meantime, we spray with essential oil, which is a non-toxic product and just blocks all their pheromone. And we give that a couple of sprays throughout the refill, so it'll keep them away from this area, and they'll be less inclined to try to return here. All right, so we are now just finishing up with the last of the forager collecting. This method works fine over time, so you just leave the vac running for an hour. As you see, they keep going in the hole routinely. So it's now just a matter of knocking them out one at a time while they come back and explore what is the vacuum hole in disguise. All right, here we are on August 19th, 2023. We just took this Maculifrons nest out of the ground. Good job, Katie. Really well done. It looks like this one's pretty well contained. It was a relatively small nest, so the population's not huge, but it was definitely on its way to being a big one. It's very active. So excellent. Thank you. Okay, August 19th, 2023. Here's a Maculifrons nest we just dug out with Katie. Good population in there. We're going to go ahead and freeze them now in dry ice.
tuck it way down so you have ice underneath, and then you bury it with ice on the top. And you put in your insulation material, close it up, give it 10-15 minutes.
So that's it for today's episode. Thanks for riding along with us. If you found this entertaining or educational, if you'd enjoyed the content, please do like, subscribe, share, and comment. Just to let us know you're there. Have a good one.